You have ACT, you have Client Look, you have REA, which are wonderful solutions for regional offices, those working on teams. Salesforce seems to be the most popular among national accounts, multiple offices, hundreds if not thousands of brokers. It is a fabulous program, it's expensive, a lot of moving parts. We have been using ACT in our office since it was a DOS product since 1989. That's a long time on one program, but every time, and so now we're on whatever the newest version is. You can't go wrong with ACT. Easy to share. Now, one of the things I want to mention to you, and I can't believe we're where we are today, you want your firm on a shared database. And to me, it still is amazing how many of you make an independent decision. I'm going to be on ACT, I'm going to be on Client Look, I'm going to be on REA. Some of you are on Post-it notes, some of you are on Outlook, some of you are on Excel, and neither one of those are really true CRMs. And it's just a head scratcher after all these years why the firm has not adopted a shared database. Now, we're going to talk about this in a couple of days, the importance of working on a team. I'm a huge fan of a team. So if you are on a team, it is essential that the team is on a shared database. That if I work with these 4 team members, we all see each other's contact records. And only if a note is privileged would we not be able to see that, but other than that. So there's several wonderful contact management programs. Here's how I would answer it. Whatever program you're going to use is the one I want you to use. So if you're saying, Mike, I'm going to use Client Look, then use it. I'm going to use ACT, use it. The Microsoft solution is called what? Dynamics. If you're going to use Dynamics, then I'm cool with that. We happen to use ACT in our shop. We love it. It does everything we want it to do. Everything is done out of that program. Since the beginning of time, we've all been on a shared database. Since it was DOS. That's a long time. Great question. Other questions? But I got to tell you, when you go back, particularly those that are new to the business, you must get on a true contact management system. I don't want you having business cards with rubber bands around them with notes on the back. I don't want you having Post-it notes. I don't want you having legal pads. I don't want you having old phone messages. That's not a contact management system. I want a state-of-the-art contact management system that you update at least every other year. I have clients that are on the version of ACT, which was 6.0, which 15 years ago was a bad version. And they're saying, Mike, we really aren't happy with ACT. I said, I guess not. First, it's 15 years old, and that happened to have been one of the bad versions, right? And then when they tell me 6.0, I said, you know what year it is? We're closing on 2020, and you're on ACT 6.0. Your children are younger than that, So you want to continue to reinvest in your software. Those are one of the things that are important. So pick one of the big 4 or 5 and you can't go wrong. But you want to make sure it's shared and you want to make sure that everyone commits to using it. So look at this group. 175 prospects. Home healthcare, there's 175 contacts that are members of Florida Home Healthcare that are in the area code of 407 and 321. I looked through that list, and there's not a one associate member who comes from commercial real estate. I'm feeling like a one-eyed dog in a meat shop. I'm thinking, when I go to their monthly luncheons and I'm going to look around, they're going to be nothing but folks in home health care and one commercial broker. And there's a wonderful relationship between your success and threshold to embarrassment. So I'm going to introduce myself to you and introduce yourself to you and hand out some business cards and tell you I'm, focused on home health care in my practice, and that's the reason I attend the monthly luncheons. And if we can ever assist you in your real estate needs, please let us know. You'll have to tell me if there's a faster way, other than maybe inheritance, to jumpstart your practice, okay? Of going to those that we've identified as growth industries and hanging out with them on a monthly basis. So think about the backgrounds you come from and what associations are there who need real estate that come from a background that you would be comfortable. Does that make sense? That's the logic that you should use. A matter of fact, those that were in the retail business, they join retail associations and do gangbusters. Those that were in pharmaceutical sales that worked for GlaxoSmithKline but have decided to get into commercial real estate. They oftentimes get into healthcare practice. So look at your background and say, what associations are there who use commercial real estate that I can relate to? Then we use the prospecting pyramid. 50% of the business you tee up each year should come from an e-touch or an e-gifting campaign. There is not enough time in the day to call on every prospect that's in my target market. There is not enough time in the day for me to attend all the luncheons I would like to attend. And so when I look at my database, I segment it in 4 tiers. This would be the entire home health care group. Tier 2 is home health care, but those that have a lease expiring in the next 24 months. Tier 3 would be home health care greater than 10,000 square feet, lease expiring in 24 months. And Tier 4 are the 8 or 9 most logical prospects that I should pursue based upon size and immediate need. Greater than 20,000 square feet, needing something in the next 12 to 18 months. Stay with me on this. I'm going to allocate my time and resources more to Tier 3 and Tier 4. But I'm going to cover the waterfront with an aggressive e-gift, e-touch campaign. As I am calling on prospects from Tier 3, Tier 4, who logically seem to be the most immediate prospects, I send an email out to a Tier 1 prospect with an article that was attached, that's the e-gift, that says, Fred, I thought you'd be interested in the article on how those in home health care are using their facilities to grow their sales and improve employee productivity. And at the time I'm making my outbound calls on the Tier 3, Tier 4, Jana sends out an email to Tier 1. Tier 1 prospect, Holly, sends me a response back, says, Mike, I really appreciate the article. How timely. We're doubling our space in the next 6 months. Would you give me a call to see how you can maybe help us? Boom. 50% of the business you tee up in a year comes because you have the right databases that have been properly maintained, that you are using properly. And what I mean by properly, for years we used Constant Contact where we sent out the same thing to everybody with very little response. Today we are much more surgical, that we send out a targeted email to a group with something that we think would be of interest to them. I would not send an article to an attorney about home health care. I would send them an article about how they're driving revenue by space use or by having more natural light or something that would be of interest to them. So it is much more tedious today because when Jana goes for our database, we say which group do we want to pursue now and what do we want to send them. We're not going to send them an email saying, I'm Mike Lipsey and I need some business, could you give me a call? I don't think I'm going to get much of a response. So that's why we refer to it as an e-gift or an e-touch. It's much different than an email. An email is just a solicitation. We're sending you something. If the time is right that we can assist you, let us know. So when we take a look at the prospecting pyramid, you might be working multiple prospecting pyramids at the same time. You might be working home health care for your tenant rep practice. You might be working multifamily owners. You might be working, a prospect type, which is industrial landlords. So you're deciding this is the focus of my practice, but the number one task is building your database. That's where it always begins. And a database is not a bunch of legal pads. It's not a bunch of business cards with rubber bands. It is a qualified contact management system that you have committed to use every single day. I'm amazed to tell you, postcards have made a comeback. Not stuff in an envelope that people are going to throw away. Jordan, in his practice, sells a building, sends out a postcard to the owners close by and say, we've just sold the Bank of America property on whatever location it was. If you would have an interest in knowing the details of that transaction, please let us know. And if you would like to have an opinion and value on your property, give us a call. We're amazed at the response that people are getting off of postcards. 10 years ago, I started telling our clients, stop printing, don't print anything. Everything should be at your website. But because people are electronically touched so often now, the postcard is becoming a very effective campaign. Yes, sir. Some of our clients, the question was, where's the best approach to getting owners? Prospect Now is pretty good. I don't know if you're using it. Prospect Now is pretty good. You know what's even better? Is getting a college intern that starts with you the first week in June. You give them a good digital camera and you give them a map of where you want the owners. And you send them and show them how to take photographs of the property, get the tenant roster if possible. It's the same way we've been doing it for 40 years. It is grunt work. You go into the market with a youngin', with a good digital camera, and you pay them a bonus of $5 for every property. They give you a complete contact record. All right? So in addition that you pay them $9 or $10 an hour, plus $5 for every completed contact record, you budget $4,000 to $5,000 for the summer intern. For $5,000, you now have one of the finest property databases in the submarket, and you do them one at a time. There is no dream of genie, that you rub on the bottle and out pops all the owners. It's grunt work. Building a database is a full-time commitment, even for a small boutique. And I wish there were shortcuts. And I can give you a list grabber that you can get. It's still the prospect still needs to be touched. It still needs to be cleaned up. Who's responsible for real estate? But since my beginning in the business, again, which will be 41 years this December, we have used interns right now. We have always used young, bright, in college, in between undergraduate and graduate work that wants to get into commercial real estate. That's where we have used to build our databases since the beginning of time. But you have to identify the criteria of what you're looking for and just go get it. I'm only familiar with hard work. And we have bought plenty of databases. Guess what? They're 40% wrong. Or I'm optimistic, they're 60% right. Someone has still got to go through that contact record, and people still move, and they still change, and things happen. And maintaining a database is a job for a boutique of one person at least 20 hours a week. On a small shop, to me, I've always suggested to brokers that you should try to grow your database by 500 net new names each year. That's for a single broker. And some people said, oh, but Mike, the database is going to be too big. It's too big if you're going to figure out that I got to touch everybody with a phone call or drop in. If you believe in an aggressive electronic touch campaign, then you would grow your database 500 net new names each year. So at the end of the year, a brand new broker like Fred, you got 500 prospects in that database. That should grow at the minimum 500 net new names each year. So now it's the end of your first year or second year, you're up to 1,000. You're deduping, you're cleaning up. That's not 1,000 half junk, half okay. That is 1,000 solid great new names. As consultants, we'll come in and we'll put together a team. And the first thing we do is get these three who have run solo practices to merge their databases. But before we take you and put you on Client Looker, Salesforce, or ACT, we say you can only move clean stuff into the team database. So take your Outlook, take your Excel spreadsheets, take your Post-it notes, and go on the next long weekend, go through and throw out all the stuff that's junk. Then we have the big party where we then take your cleaned up Excel, your cleaned up Outlook, your cleaned up business cards, and we merge them into a shared database. We do not want you merging individual databases into a team database unless it was cleaned first. Because now what you've done is like to the 3 to the third power, you've moved junk in times 3. And now I'm sharing your Pop Warner contact records and your fraternity brothers at college. I don't want that. I want you, and it is an aggravation, isn't it, to go through there and the best way to do it, particularly for an analog commercial broker, is you print it out in a phone list and you X out who doesn't come in. You give that to your intern who made 1,600 on her SAT, who's going to figure it out in about a half a minute, and she gets it all in there for you. To me, one of the absolute best days of a team is the first day that we merge individual contact records into a team shared database. That is top 100 days, because now we got something to work with. That now becomes one of the single most important assets of the team.